So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. It's the newest Ninja Turtles movie from Paramount Pictures, and it's actually a fun one. A few little gripes I have with it, but I think overall it's a pretty enjoyable film.
This is insane. Turtle Mutant Karate Teens. I want to know everything about you.
Our dad is definitely not a giant rat.
That makes me feel like he's a rat.
So TMNT Mutant Mayhem, it's actually a pretty fun one. You watch the trailer, which I've only watched one teaser trailer, and I didn't watch anything until going into the movie yesterday. And it was really dope. I thought it was a really good movie. Like, it's weird that it had the animation style that feels somewhat like Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse, but also feels like it's its own thing at the same time. And I really applaud them for doing something different, because there's moments where at the beginning of the movie, I'm just watching and my eyes are just, I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like, I didn't know if it was CGI. I didn't know if it was hand drawn. I didn't know if it was something else. It's kind of a combination of the two, but it works so well. And the one thing I will say that it does better than Across the Spider-Verse is that it's not overwhelming at any point, at least for me. I feel like Across the Spider-Verse can get pretty overwhelming when it comes to the animation styles and just everything just in your face. This one, while it has moments of that, it still feels subdued to a degree, and you're able to actually like see how things are moving on the screen. It just feels like there's more of a flow to what's happening on the screen, and I enjoyed that. So it wasn't overwhelming, but it was also just this moment. It just looks really good. Even in the dark moments, there's a lot of dark scenes in this film, and I say dark meaning like at night, and they're lit very well. Like, you still see everything in dark rooms, whether it's outside at night, you still see everything. I thought that was a really great job from the animators to help you still see what's going on. Nothing felt dim. Nothing felt like Game of Thrones nighttime type scenes. You can still see everything happening. But if you don't know, the story goes like this. After years of being sheltered by the human world, the Turtle brothers set out to win the hearts of New Yorkers and be accepted as normal teenagers. Their new friend, April O'Neil, helps them to take on a mysterious crime syndicate, but they soon get in over their heads when an army of mutants is unleashed upon them. One thing I'll say that this movie does pretty well is it really helps you connect to the Turtles in kind of a different way. It does a really good job of showing you the struggles that they experience. One, being teenagers. They're 15 years old in this film, which is dope. Like, they're actually teenagers in the movie. I don't remember that being the case in that, what was it, 2007 TMNT film? I thought they were still like maybe young adults. They might have been teens in that one. Not sure. I didn't really care for it. But this one, they're actually teenagers. They do teenage stuff. They're stupid and silly, all that kind of stuff. And April O'Neil is also a teenager, but she's also an aspiring journalist. She's a journalist at her high school, and now she's trying to make a name for herself by getting this really cool scoop on Superfly, the main villain. But because they're all in high school and they're all teenagers, it just, I don't know, it helps you see them from a different light. I feel like in the old movies, the 90s TMNT movies, live action, which I still love, Secret of the Ooze is still the best one. Those, they're like, they don't feel like teenagers at all. They're like young adults, almost adults to a degree. So it's a little bit of a different situation. Even in the first movie, though, it does have those moments of just them kind of going through it and being depressed and things like that. This one's a little bit more manageable, and I think even kids will understand what they're going through and what they're experiencing and why they're sad and mopey at times, but still silly. They're just kids. They're experiencing things and they want to experience new things. And that's really what this movie is all about. This movie is a comedy through and through. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, they wrote the movie. They're executive producers, I believe. Seth Rogen's in the movie. So it's definitely a comedy. And I'll just say it like this. It's more so a comedy. Before I get to the negatives, it is way more so a comedy than anything else. Highlights, though, are the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really awesome. Ice Cube as Superfly is dope. Giancarlo Esposito as Baxter Stockman, he's also really good, even though he is barely in the movie. So I feel like that was a waste. But Superfly he's really good. Ice Cube is actually acting in this movie. I feel like he's always just Ice Cube playing whatever character, but he's not really that character. He's just Ice Cube. This is really how it goes. And this one, while you still hear his voice, no matter what,
6 in the morning, police at my door.
He still feels like he's become Superfly. I saw Superfly. I didn't see Ice Cube as I'm looking at this grotesque mutated fly flying around and picking things up and fighting people. So from that aspect, Ice Cube in some instances steals the show big time here. One thing I was surprised though is that I'm normally a Michelangelo fan. He's normally my favorite, even though I would choose Leonardo if I had to be one because I want to be the leader. But Michelangelo is always the funniest one. He was always the funniest one in the old 90s movies. He was the funniest one, I think, to a degree in the 2007 one, as far as I remember. I haven't really watched the newest cartoons, but he's normally the silliest one. He's just, hilarious. He's a comedian. In this one, he's trying to be like an actor, kind of, more or less. But Donatello is a funny turtle in this movie. So like he kind of took on the Michelangelo role to a degree, yet he's still not a genius, but he's super smart. So that part was a little bit different. So I liked him more, and Michelangelo definitely took a back seat for me in this film because he wasn't as wild and, funny as he normally is in other iterations of the team. When there are action scenes, which there are a few, they're pretty good. They're pretty exciting. I was hoping for a little bit more, but overall, they are pretty exciting. And again, the animation really lends itself to the style that they portray on the screen with the turtles and the action scenes and them learning karate and all that kind of stuff. So that worked. Again, the animation really, really helps to give it an edge and push it up a little bit more, because otherwise it would kind of maybe be a little bit boring, but the animation really helps to liven things up a bit here. Now, I do have to talk about some of the gripes that I did have with the movie. I think if I were to score it, which I know I don't normally do scores on here, but people have been asking me, I will give the movie about an 8.5 out of 10, maybe even a 9. I could push it up there, but most likely an 8.5 is where I would settle. And that's mainly because this is another example of having big name actors in these roles for no reason. While Ice Cube does a really good job as Superfly, the main villain in this one, the best voice actors in this movie are the kids that play the turtles. That's just what it is. I don't know any of them. I've never seen their names. When I see their faces on Google, don't know who they are, but they were the best thing about the movie. They keep the movie lively. They keep you engaged. Their voices they just fit the character so well. So seeing some of the other actors that were portraying characters in this film, I'm like, why is John Cena in this? What's the purpose? Why is Giancarlo Esposito in this? He's barely in the movie. He's fantastic in his, few scenes that he's in, but he's barely in the movie. Like, why not just get actual voice actors to do this? It's really not going to play that big a role, I think, in people going to see it or not, because it's Ninja Turtles. I just don't understand it. Can someone please explain to me why we get these big name actors and they spend all this money just to, I don't know, sometimes you don't even know it's the actor in some cases. Paul Rudd is in this one as one of the mutated characters, one that I wasn't really aware of, like a gecko. I thought it was Andy Samberg for the longest because it sounded similar to his voice, but it was Paul Rudd. And he was actually a standout. He was great. But again, I didn't even know that was the case. I'm looking at the end credits and it's going through all the names. I'm like, they were in this? They were in this? Why were they in this? That's just one gripe that I always have when it comes to animated films. So that's just me. Another piece is a little bit of the story. They do some cool things when it comes to their origin, the Turtles' origins. Even Superfly. They changed up Superfly a little bit here because normally he would be another character turned into a fly, but they changed that up a little bit. I don't want to give anything away, but they changed up a little bit from how it normally goes with this fly character. And while it works for this movie, it is really cool, but there were some change ups. Even with the Turtles and Splinter, they changed up a little bit of their origin, especially like how they learn karate. It's funny. It's actually really hilarious, but it's very different because of how they learn karate in this movie. It changes a few aspects that we're used to if they do some future movies with some future characters. For instance, Shredder. If you bring Shredder into the mix, because of how they learn karate here, you know that Shredder's really never come in contact with Splinter because it's just a whole kind of different dynamic here that they add into the movie with that character. So it's a little bit weird. Which first, Jackie Chan plays Splinter, and because of his voice, I kept thinking of the character he plays in Ninjago. I kept thinking that, but it works. It does work, but it is a little bit different.
I'm really sorry, Splinter. Some of the guys wanted to get pizza, and I tried to talk them out of it.
You ratted us out.
Hey, don't use that word that way.
I mean, it's 2023.
Sorry, Dad.
You have the power to win the battle without fighting. When you start using your mind, you won't need mechs and machines.
Again, the origin, few little minor changes, but it doesn't take you out of the movie at all. I'll say that. It does add to just the times we're in and how we learn things nowadays as well. So you gotta see it to like just kind of fully appreciate how they go about it. Some people may have issues with it because it may affect future movies and relationships between future characters and villains. Also, the ending of this one, it feels a little too perfect. at least for the Ninja Turtles. The ending was the only thing where I was like, all right, this feels weird. This is definitely a kid's movie now. Because there's moments in the movie where it feels like they're really catering towards adults. Then there's moments where they're catering towards children. But it does feel like almost, again, like a Pixar type of situation where it is catering towards adults and kids. There's a lot of nods to the either old movies or old cartoons or the video games. There's a lot of different things in here. But the ending, full on for me, even though they do allude to it throughout the film, and it's a want that these kids, these teenagers want in their life. The fact that it does happen, it just felt weird and odd, and that kind of took me out a little bit because it felt so non-Ninja Turtles for me. That was a little bit different. So we'll see how it plays out in the future movies, because they're for sure going to do a future movie. There is an end credit scene in this one. It's actually pretty cool. And if Paramount plays their cards right, this could be their Spider-Verse. This could be their franchise with the Ninja Turtles. It just worked. It worked. It is a good origin, I will say that. But another gripe, it is overall a comedy. The action can be a little bit lacking in some areas. I always felt like, there could be like one more action scene here, or one more just knock your socks off, fight to kind of help move the story along. Not that it drags, because it's only an hour and 30 minutes, but it did need maybe a little bit more action just to get me over the hump. But yeah, outside of that, it is still a good ride. It's a fun movie, and the soundtrack is great, and the performances are good, even though I wish they would just kind of lean more on actual voice actors than these big name actors for such small roles. Have you seen Ninja Turtles? Will you see Ninja Turtles? Again, it's out now. It's a fun ride. I enjoyed it. The animation is great. The soundtrack is great. Ice Cube is great. And the kids that play the Turtles, they do a fantastic job in this one. Again, I would have liked to see more from Bebop and Rocksteady, because they are kind of heavily marketed in this movie. But they are very much side characters here. And I wish there was just more for them to do. But Superfly really overall does kind of steal the show. So I enjoyed it. I'm going to take my kids to see it this month. I think they'll really have fun with it, because they love Ninja Turtles, like they really do. So I'm going to get them out there to see it, and then see kind of like what their thoughts are. But let me know your thoughts if you've seen it or you plan to see it. Tell me down below in the comments as always. Check out the other videos I got here for you for other reviews, or if you want to laugh, smile, whatever the case. We have fun here, and I thank you so much for watching. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.